Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Yeah. All right. We're starting for real. Okay. So thank you, those of you who are joining us either tonight in person or you'll be watching this later in the recording. My name's Annie Evans. I am the Director of Education and Outreach for New American History, which is a project based in Richmond, Virginia at the University of Richmond. Tonight, I am delighted to have some guests with us. We have our friends from the Benjamin Harrison Presidential Site and the Periodic Presidents. And they are going to share a little bit of their resources that I have been fans of for a long time. And I've had the pleasure of meeting these folks, and they were kind enough to allow us to use some of their resources in a new learning resource that we put out on New American History just this past summer that goes along with the new map. So I'm going to share a little bit about some of our OER tools and resources, open educational resources for everything that we create at New American History. There is no login, no password, and never a paywall. So that should be good news right there. So I am looking here at a library. This is from the Library of Congress. And when I was a kid, these were sort of the types of flat maps, historical maps that I grew to love and became quite a fan of cartography. But looking at a flat map like this, while it does show some patterns, this is a map showing presidential elections of the United States. And you will get these slides. This video will be uploaded to YouTube, and links to the slides that have links out to all the images that we're sharing will be included in the presenter notes so that you and your students can explore them on your own. But I very early on in my career fell in love with digital mapping tools and resources. So at the University of Richmond, we have a digital atlas called American Panorama, and it is full of interactive maps that visualize data. Oftentimes, we're using census data and other public records. We also give all of our data away so that others who are creating digital projects don't have to reinvent the wheel. And so all of our resources are backed by a Creative Commons license, meaning as long as they're not monetized in any way, you and your students are free to take that data and build your own maps. Which we encourage, and we sometimes help support students that are doing that. So I'm actually going to come out of sharing mode because I really want to show you the map itself and show you some of the features. So I'm not going to stick to the slides. You will be able to use them at your leisure to explore. But electing the president shows every presidential election from 1840 to the 2020, the last presidential election. When you go in to explore the map, you're going to start off on the most recent, the 2020 presidential election, and it's going to show you the popular vote. And so you and your students can drill down to your own individual location. I'm based here in Virginia, so I'm going to zoom in there. And we are at there we go. We are at the University of Richmond. So if I want to look and see how people in the city of Richmond surrounding our campus voted over time, you notice this line graph here. You can see some of these elections were razor thin. They were so close, whereas others were very far apart. So you can also look down here in the bottom left and see how strong by voting district, how strong they lean towards the Democrats, towards the Republicans, or somewhere in between. So when you hear people talking about red states and blue states and purple states, wow, you can really see where the areas were that we're kind of a mixed bag. And you can do that for every city and county across the country. You can also then toggle over and share the electoral college vote so your students can compare. You can map these out. You can also use that with using the bubbles. So again, we're talking about data visualization a lot in schools now and teaching kids how to be data literate and how to understand the way that data is being visualized, and our friends from Periodic Presidents are going to nod into that a little bit more here in a minute. But looking at the population centers, a lot of times you hear people say, oh, there's way more red states than blue states, or more blue states than red states. But when you look at it through the population lens using this bubble, you really see that some of these, more rural parts of the country have so many so much land that is not occupied. And so comparing to everybody on the eastern side of the country, we have far more heavily populated, with the exceptions of the bigger cities in each of these states, particularly California on the far west coast. So I love the way that you and your students can start off local, look at that local data, and then you can move in. The other thing I do encourage you to do is to explore the introduction. Rob Nelson, who's the director of our Digital Scholars Lab, has done a brilliant job kind of annotating the map, breaking down some of the key historical elections to show students even further how patterns are being displayed on the map. Now, we have created learning resources that sort of break all these maps down and other tools and resources for you. And the last tool I want to share before I hand this over to a few of our other friends is Bunk. So Bunk is our current events tool that we created, and it is our companion project to New American History, along with the maps from the Digital Scholarship Lab, American Panorama, and other resources. But with Bunk, you can look and see what's going on in the news and see how it's connected to everything happening today. And as you can imagine, a lot of that is election related in recent months, but also things like, we're looking at the natural disasters. So many of our friends in many parts of the country are being impacted by these storms. And there's relief efforts going on. So we have a Bunk exhibit on the homepage today talking about natural disasters. But if I put electing the president, which is the name of the map we just looked at, into the search, it's going to take you to the map. You're going to get an excerpt of that introduction that I spoke about. And then it's going to show you over here on the right different types of historical connections, other content from the past couple of years and in recent days. We are constantly adding new content to Bunk to show students all the interesting writing, video content, audio content, and digital humanities projects like our interactive maps and those interactive projects of others. And you and your students can drill down, you can explore, you can read excerpts from major publications across scholarly writings across the country, or you can drill down into some of these tags and see there's 78 other pieces of content just on the topic of the Electoral College. You can also map that out, because we do love maps, and you can see where are people writing about this topic. So how are people in South Dakota writing and thinking about this topic of the Electoral College? And you can also pull in other subtags like presidential elections, just to see what else is being out there and written about. So I hope that you'll spend a little time looking at New American history, particularly looking at the maps and looking at Bunk. And I am going to turn it over now to our friends at the Benjamin Harrison Presidential Site.
Awesome. Thanks,
Okay.
Annie. Roger, do you want to jump in and introduce us to
Sure.
the group?
I'm Roger. This is the site where we reside. It's in downtown Indianapolis. Benjamin Harrison was the 23rd president. And just to be a little evangelical about our guy Ben for a second, he was really kind of the first president of what I think of the modern era. He was the first president, we think, to have his voice recorded, to ride in a car. He was the first president to have electricity in the White House. He was very much a progressive. He opened Ellis Island, and actually his opening of Ellis Island federalized immigration as an issue. He set aside the first 13 million acres of land for the Forest Preserve, opened the second, third, and fourth national park. The Sherman Antitrust Act was under Harrison and broke up monopolies. So Harrison is very pertinent. Unfortunately, and to put it maybe crassly, he kind of gets lumped in with these bearded guys somewhere after Lincoln and before Roosevelt. So, we kind of try to have to do something to break him away from the pack and to show that he is worthy of study. One thing that's unique about the museum is that 80% of the furnishings are original, because up until 2020, we had a living granddaughter. So we have a long connection with the family, a good relationship with the family, and they've been very generous to us. But with this, I think we've done very competently K through 5 education, and since the 1950s. but, and I want to be careful how I say this, but I think the pandemic gave us a real opportunity to kind of shift and do new and exciting things. Before the pandemic, I had the great honor of teaching for a semester at our local Indianapolis blind school. And our initiative digitized our collection. So you can go to our website, and if you have a 3D printer, you can download and print our collection. You can see our stuff in our museum, and you can download and print it. And we used this for tactile education with the blind school, and it was really wonderful. It was kind of career changing, to tell you the truth. It was a real great thing to witness and to see a new way to reach students. Um, but with the pandemic, we really wanted to focus and try to make our museum pandemic proof. And what we did is we kind of shifted. We took all of our programming, and we offer it three ways. You can come to the museum. We will go to your classroom within reason, driving from Indianapolis, or we will do it virtually, live stream with it. We haven't gotten into letting people record the programs because I think different audience, we'd like to interact with them, but we set up a way that we Zoom with the teacher in the classroom, and we send the materials out pre-style so they can have that with them when we do our live stream. Molly,
Yeah, so from there, our programs are pandemic proof that way. What we're also really excited about releasing pretty soon this fall is a virtual tour of the museum that will be a live stream that audiences, schools, and/or adults and all kinds of groups across the country can take advantage of if they would like. That just really builds in a lot of engagement. It's not supposed to be one of those virtual tours where you're by yourself and you're on the website and you're clicking from room to room. We're really trying to adapt what we do so well in person with the storytelling aspect of the tour that you have when you come to see us in Indianapolis, and try to translate that as best we can into our virtual tour, which uses a Matterport scan, which has great detail of the entire home and all the artifacts. So that's going to be a really great resource. We really hope to be able to especially get into more schools where maybe we can be of service with some of the different topics in American history that we're able to look into using Benjamin Harrison.
one
So,
thing, but before I want you to talk about Project POTUS and the whole reason, really kind of why we're here, Molly, is that one thing, and I want to know kind of if there's other people who have experienced this. Um, Over the years, when we addressed the presidency, we've always had higher visitation during presidential election years. And specifically, we used to do a couple of thousand kids for a program called Banner Year. And we compared the 1888 presidential election, where Harrison lost the popular vote by the Electoral College, with campaigning today. Now, in the 1888 election, voter turnout in Indiana was in around 84%. I think in the last election it was 30. So we talk about are we more connected or are we more isolated? And what has technology done for this? And we compare this. But what's interesting is K through 5 audiences have run screaming away from the issue of presidential elections. I have talked to teachers who have wanted to do this, and they said, we are not touching that with a 10-foot pole. And right or wrong, their way of handling the acrimony and all of this is to not address it. And so what we've seen is a shift into the high school and middle school audience, and with our program Future Presidents of America, which now is done at the Jackson site in Nashville, the Lincoln Museum in Springfield, and Woodrow Wilson will be offering their first Future President camp in Staunton, Virginia this year. It's for 13 to 16-year-olds. We hit these topics head on, but where we found a sweet spot of having a wider draw is a program that Molly has spearheaded and has really, really done amazing things with. So if it's okay, I want to shut up now and let the brains of the operation, let Molly take over and show you what this is.
Oh, nonsense. Roger is humble there. He has been with the museum for 34, I believe, years now. So he is the brains of the operation. So thank you, Roger. But Annie, would you mind switching to the next slide for us so I can pull up our so this is our initiative, Project POTUS. Now, like Roger said, Benjamin Harrison is a pretty underrated guy. We like to really challenge ourselves at the presidential site to be creative and to try to think of ways to use Benjamin Harrison as a lens to sort of expand upon civics, the presidency, executive leadership, all that good stuff. And so, what that really developed into during the pandemic, as a pandemic proof program, was a way to engage middle schoolers to consider the legacy and the actions and the history of each of the presidents, to try to really analyze them as individuals and to look at their records and create a 1 minute or less video that would tell the story of each of the presidents, that they would then submit to us in our national contest, that is open to all students in middle school, so that we could put those in front of our what we call the citizen jury, to evaluate each of those projects and to select a winner for each of the American presidents every year. So every year we have 45 videos that again are the authority on that president for the year, and we are able to put those videos then into a summation of the American presidency as told by middle schoolers. So, what we really hope this continues to transform into is an opportunity for peer to peer learning within that middle school audience. Before I get too deep into this, I wonder, Annie, if you might click over to the next one and play the grand prize winning video for us from this past year.
Sure. And is that the link is in the presenter notes?
It should be, yes.
Okay, so I'm going to come out of there.
And it should be either on this slide or the next one. Or the first one, maybe, yeah.
There it is.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to give this a whirl.
It's our grand prize winner from Pennsylvania on Harry Truman from this past year.
Harry Truman, the 33rd President of the U.S. Before his presidency, Truman fought in World War I as a captain in field artillery, tried to run a haberdashery, got married, became a judge, and later became a senator. He was selected as vice president for Franklin Roosevelt and was thrown into the presidential position when Roosevelt died. He stated that, "I felt like the moon, the stars, and all the planets had fallen on me." Not too long into his presidency, Truman attended the Potsdam Conference to figure out how to rebuild Germany and restore peace in the country. Later, after Japan rejected surrender, Truman dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki and ended World War II. 2 years later, during the Cold War, he issued the Truman Doctrine to fly in materials to Turkey and Greece and protect them from communism. Back in the U.S., Truman expanded Social Security, which benefited the Old Age and Survivors Program. When the Korean War had started, Truman sent troops to help fight. This made him very unpopular since the U.S. was tired and needed a break from World War II. Towards the end of his second term, he decided not to run for president again due to his loss of popularity. In the end, Truman was very loyal, honest, and had confidence in his decisions.
Awesome.
I am such a huge fan of legography. Are y'all familiar with that term?
Yes, I love that.
Photography, and we create learning resources with the Smithsonian does a brilliant thing called the Civic Season every year. And if you look on our learning resources site at New American History, there are the last several summers worth, and I think it was summer of 2022 that we did a whole section on legography. So when I first saw this summer, when I met both of you, I loved I loved all the videos, and I hope you guys will all dig into their archives because they're just amazing what these students have come up with. Is there anything else you guys want to share about Project POTUS? We do have links in the slides, and everybody will be able to see the slides when we upload tonight's video to YouTube.
Yeah. Yeah, would you mind going back to that second slide for a second, Annie?
Sure.
Awesome. All right, so just the one after this, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
Perfect. So again, the simplicity of this project, we have really tried our best to make this as open-ended as possible in terms of how teachers in the classroom can adapt this to best fit what they're working on, or to be able to offer this as maybe an extracurricular activity for students. And what we've actually seen is that many video and computer science classrooms have picked this up, given that it does have an interdisciplinary background. And so this becomes something that engages a lot of students, successfully who may not actually have a vested interest in history, but then who are able to use all of their creativity and their skills with video editing and their talents to be able to create things like this. Logan's video is the winner from this past year, is very exceptional. Of course, we get all kinds of videos when they come in every year. Some of them are very serious documentary submissions that are wonderful. Some of them are rap videos with original lyrics about the presidents. Chester Arthur, that was pretty memorable last year, and all kinds of other things. So the hope is that, again, this gets students really excited about history. It gives them an ownership over their own learning about the presidents. It maybe hopefully allows them to evaluate the leadership and the actions of each of the presidents and really kind of understand them as individuals and how they had an impact in American history as a whole. So that's really what we're hoping to do with this program. And it's a bonus that it not only engages middle school students, but that we have, and we're still recruiting for, a large pool of virtual volunteers who evaluate about 30 of these videos a piece every spring as part of our virtual citizen jury. So that has been an amazing piece as well. And I would encourage any of you who are presidential history buffs or people who just enjoy history in general, that we are always looking to include more people in our citizen jury. So that is also an option for adults who enjoy this kind of thing too. So I'll leave it at that, and feel free to reach out to Roger or I if we can ever be of assistance. And we certainly hope to see some more Project POTUS submissions this year. And thank you, Annie, for allowing us to be a part of this.
Absolutely. And I have to say, middle school kids in particular, because I literally spent over a half my life teaching middle school, they are all over this sort of competition based. But we are going to take a look at something for middle and high school students in a few minutes. So if you're with us tonight watching this either in person or you're going to watch this through YouTube later, we have something for high school as well. All right. So before I segue into our next guests, I did want to draw your attention to this joint statement that was released in May, because it's been on my mind quite a bit this past several months. And with all of the data visualizations that are contained within our maps that I shared, the electing the president, we have many more maps. Roger mentioned President Harrison opening Ellis Island. We have a map that shows immigration patterns, very similar to the presidential map, where you can drill down and look at your individual counties' immigration population from the 1850 census up to the 2020 census, and other interactive maps. And all of our maps are created using data. And so this joint statement was released by 5 major education organizations, including the National Council for Social Studies, which I have been a member of for many decades. And what I was so impressed, first of all, that 5 organizations could agree on anything in this day and age, I was very impressed and pleasantly surprised. Normally, these groups are all kind of competing for the same grant dollars, but for them to come together and release such a strongly worded statement, and again, these will be in the slides. You can read the full report, which I have a picture here on the right, but I kind of extracted some pieces of it that spoke to me as a history and civics teacher. It talks about data science should be taught across the curriculum in K-12 schools to help develop a data literate citizenry. They go on to say data science is contextual and interdisciplinary. As historians, we are all about providing historical context. Data science is an investigative process. We are all about using inquiry in the social studies classroom. Data science understandings and experiences are for everyone, and they should start in elementary school. So in many cases, we have seen time for science and social studies reduced to add additional minutes for reading and math. And those are very important subjects, but we all know that if students get a rich social studies and science curriculum, we tend to see our reading scores go up. And so I feel like this is a piece of data point that you can take to your administrators, especially if you're an elementary educator, and say, let's take a look at this. These are your math and science foundations recommending this as well. And data science educators must develop, we need to professionally develop and practice ethical uses of data towards a civically responsible ends, and teaching our students to question the sources of data. And in an election cycle like we have never seen before, to me, this really resonated. And so thinking about this piece, I knew exactly who I wanted to include tonight I'm a huge fan of their work, so I'd like to introduce you to PJ and Jamie from the Periodic Presidents. Hi, guys.
Oh, hi everyone.
Hi.
Thanks so much for having us here, Annie. We're so excited to be collaborating with you guys. It's just truly amazing. The electing the president maps are wow. They're so impressive. We've been playing around in them like crazy lately. There's just so much to learn. And as you said, we do infographics, and we are really focused on the presidency. So Molly and Roger, we've really enjoyed hearing about Project POTUS, and we're both teachers. We cannot wait to go back to school tomorrow and show everybody this. And it's just such a really cool thing for kids to do. And that Lego video was just so much fun.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah,
that was so cool. So yeah, as Annie said, we do infographics, and what we have found, like just through our own research, is that there's so much data that supports using infographics in the classroom to boost literacy skills. It boosts our higher order thinking skills, because you're taking all of this different data and you have to figure out what data do I have space for, and what data is the most important, and can I make connections with color, and all of these really higher order thinking skills are pulled through the use of infographics. And so we create infographics to use in the classroom. And then we also try to provide scaffolding to help students create infographics, because that's, in our mind, where the real power is for kids to take all of this data and then create something new and unique. And as Roger was saying earlier, the teachers are kind of afraid of these topics right now. They're kind of scary to talk about elections and the presidents. And while we think that's really unfortunate, we do understand why. And there's a real power for the teacher in saying, no, this is just data. This is truth that we're turning into this graphic and this really cool final product. It's not like we're trying to push any kind of agenda. This is just what it is. And I'm just showing you that. And so it does kind of take some of the fear away from the teacher. So we were wanting to just kind of share some of the things that we have created. PJ is the artist, so I say we, like I'm kind of like the data nerd, and then PJ makes it look really beautiful and pretty. But we just wanted to kind of share some of the things that we've done that we think really relates to elections, and how do we teach elections in the classroom. You want to take over here?
Yeah, I can talk a little bit about the art, I guess.
Yeah, it's a good idea.
So where we start, or where we started, was the periodic table of the presidents. And for example, we can find Benjamin Harrison, number 23, smack dab between two Grovers there. And on the data visualization piece, there he is. We took a model that's familiar to kids, especially maybe at the middle school level, of the periodic table of the elements. And we were both teaching social studies at the time. And we said, if science has their periodic table of the elements, why can't we have our periodic table of the presidents, instead of just the classic, 8x10 photos lining the top of the wall in the classroom? So we started there and said, okay, well, what can we do? How can we visualize the presidents in a different way? And started with political parties. So red Republican, blue Democrat, and, found Democratic Republicans are purple, the Whigs are green. And as we started building it, we said, well, each president needs their own abbreviation. Each president has the number of times they've been elected. And as we started putting this together, we had this aha moment, like, oh, wait a minute. History can be visualized differently than perhaps we were taught in a traditional textbook. And so our periodic table of the presidents takes that play, and it's historic periods. Each row is a historic period in general, and kind of agreed upon historic eras. And then we put fun stuff on there, for example, what dollar bill they appear on, and, some more serious stuff, like if they were assassinated, or if they died in office. If they were impeached, they get an I badge. If they served as VP, they get a VP badge. So that's where it started. And it kind of opened our minds to this possibility that we could visualize history through infographics. And over the years, we've been making our own infographics, many of them, and mainly as posters, but also digital resources. And now I think this Project POTUS is just amazing, what you guys are doing, Molly and Roger, that next level of getting the kids to start creating instead of just feeding information. That's fine, and that's great to have a nice solid reference in the classroom and nice resources to have them take that next level to where they're creating. And as a teacher, I think it's scary at first to have this uncertainty of having the students create things, but then after doing it, it's amazing what you find.
What I'm hoping,
certainly excited to be able to use the resources from you guys to recommend to students to, especially to start their research. It's such an amazing launching off point to really get a snapshot immediately of each of the presidents.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Exactly.
thinking
Thank
about.
you.
Kids using them, starting in the map and then using the periodic presidents to kind of map out their projects, both for Project POTUS, if they're doing National History Day, or in a minute, we're going to look at the We the People competition. These are resources alongside the maps that we looked at earlier that I think are great foundational pieces for launching that research. So you had a couple other slides, PJ. Do you want me to flip to those now, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, if we go to past the engaging students through infographics, perhaps that bubble, slide number 18. We'll just skip over a couple more.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't do a great job of staying on track with them.
No,
We just feel so,
normally.
yeah, we feel so strongly about our infographic
So this
love,
one,
I guess, right?
yeah, right.
Right.
This is a spread from our book, and we wanted this kind of gives a good, I think, overall example of what we try to do, which is let's kind of take this sort of insane amount of data about the presidents and then present it in this what should be visually appealing, obviously, but then also like just make you think a little bit differently. Like, so when you read it and you realize that 33 of our presidents had blue or gray eyes, like that's something that, you know, it's a conversation starter, and it gives us a place to sort of start with students of like, hey, find a cool fact on here and let's look it up and let's see, well, who were the 31 presidents who served in the military, and again, it's just taking all of that data and trying to visualize it in a different kind of way.
And I think this pairs well to the bubble diagrams on the New American History maps. So it's a nice corollary where you're saying, okay, each bubble, the area size is actually the number of presidents. And so that idea of visualizing a number through area, and I know we were speaking earlier about bringing maybe in some math and data, some STEM into the social studies. It's a good talking point and a good way to do that. And I think our next slide, Annie, is very similar to that with the Electoral College. So this is one of our most popular resources for teachers. And each little voice bubble for a state is relative to the size of their electoral representation. And then we put on there as well, since the last census, if they gained or lost electoral votes. And I think you can see in general, it might be hard to see from the image, but in the upper Great Lake region, you'll see a lot of states tend to be losing compared to maybe in the South or the West. Some states are gaining. So once again, like a map, maybe a map infographic combo. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm thinking about all the shifting that occurred during the pandemic, which would not be reflected on the 2020 census. This census data was actually collected during the pandemic. And in many cases, because of the nature of people isolating and some people going and staying in other parts of the country where they felt safer. I'm wondering what the next census, the 2030 census I think we're going to see some major shifts. I'm going to predict. So I can't wait to see what your next poster will have to be. You'll have to make it in about 6 more years. But I do think we saw a lot of shifts, and I think we're going to probably maybe see some people maybe moving more towards the middle. Some of those less populated areas, from what I'm reading, have picked up population actually. Now that people can work from home, I work from home. I worked from home before the pandemic. But there are more and more people who said, you know what, I don't need to go back to the office, even though, you know, it's safer now for us to go. And we've seen a huge shift in where and how we work. So that also will affect, I think, where people live. So that'll be really interesting to see. All right. Anything else we want to show tonight before we move on?
Yeah, I think that that last slide with the president's portraits, that would be a good resource to show that. That's linked to, yeah, each president has their own page here on our website, periodicpresidents.com, and it's a great, maybe a great spot to start for your project POTUS. We put the basic info on there, and also we put little infographics about each president. So like by the numbers for each president. We have presidential facts, like a nutrition fact label. And we have some other little resources that would be a great starting point, maybe for a reluctant reader as well, to where they can use an infographic to get some information for their project, instead of just going straight to an encyclopedia article or something like that.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a really an important point is we have kids who feel overwhelmed when it's a page full of words in a very small font sometimes, but when they can look at things visual, like a map or like your beautiful infographics or a graphic novel, you know, the reason that graphic novels have really taken off, particularly with middle and high school students, I think, is it's just a different way to read a story or consume, you know, information in a fiction or nonfiction way. And I've been, you know, always been a fan of comics since I was a little kid, but I'm really impressed with the way we've taken things like classic literature or literature that we grew up reading, even Anne Frank's diary, which something, you know, was the first biography I remember reading as a child, the graphic novel version for younger readers. And then, you know, hopefully when they get a little bit better reading level, they can go back and read the full original version. But I think starting with infographics and then building up to full biographies of the presidents or other historical figures, I think is another way to build those literacy skills. And it's a different kind of literacy. It's that data literacy piece. So that's why I think your work is so brilliant. All right. Anything else you want to show?
I think that's about it. We really appreciate you having us. This has been great. Now,
absolutely. Well, I want to show just one learning resource that kind of combines all of us. So I'm going to open an incognito window because I'm always in editing mode and nobody wants to look at that. It's kind of like learning how to make sausage. This is our learning resources library. And so if I type in president as a keyword search, it's going to take you to all of the learning resources that have anything to do with presidents. We have another map called the Executive Abroad that visualizes data on all of the presidential and Secretary of State travels in the modern era, basically since there were airplanes. Most presidents did not travel outside the country very often until the airlines became a thing. And so it's a beautiful map. The Elected Presidents map. We have 3 lessons leveled, middle school, high school, and AP, looking at the Lyceum address with Abraham Lincoln, and then we've got other content. But if we go into the learning resource that we created and that Roger and Molly and PJ and Jamie were kind enough to allow me to include, so we always co-brand things when we invite our friends into our learning resources. We want to make sure we give everybody credit. This is the teacher view. So the teacher version is kind of this cream color and it says for educators at the top so that, you know, we know which version we're looking at. You notice this icon, this is the immersive reader. It is built into everything that we make in our learning resources. There's a separate button here for the student version. I'll show you the difference in a moment. But in the teacher version, we link out to national standards. And when we also include key vocabulary for both teacher version and student version. And then we have very extensive teaching tips. So we try and share any of the digital tools that we're using. We share the pedagogical strategies. We use a lot of Project Zero strategies from the Harvard School of Education. We were written up by the Cult of Pedagogy, named as one of the best digital tools a couple of years ago. We were very flattered by that, as well as the American Library Association. And so we're pulling strategies from really well-vetted people like that we trust. We kind of break down what primary and secondary sources. So there we've got the Benjamin Harrison Presidential Site, Project POTUS, the periodic presence. We give credit to people and also links for you as a teacher to go and look at those resources ahead of time to decide if this is a good fit for you and the students in front of you today. And then we jump into the inquiry, and we use the 5Es inquiry model. We know a lot of states have adopted this across the board for all content areas. We just really like the inquiry-based way that it unveils starting off with giving kids time to just kind of hook them in and then explore and then sink down into the facts and then opportunities to elaborate and extend that lesson. But once they get into the 5Es, it is exactly the same as the student version. And we walk students through step by step. There's a See, Think, Wonder, using images from the map. If you need a graphic organizer, we've already made it for you. The kids can click on that. You can print out paper copies, or the kids can make a digital version in their Google Drive and type directly on it. Inquiry-based questions, activities. Images are embedded in a gallery, so you don't have to go out and link all this stuff. It's already all linked in one place. You just have that one URL that you can put to your Google Classroom or your Canvas course. Here's the link out to the map. We give you step-by-step directions on how to navigate the map. We use strategies tried and true like Jigsaw. We pull in videos. The videos play right here in our player so that you don't have to go out to YouTube and take a chance on a kid seeing something that they shouldn't maybe. Everything is all contained within the lesson. Again, graphic organizers. So everything that you need to break down the lesson step by step. You don't have to be a GIS expert. There's Bunk showing kids how to navigate and find information in Bunk. It's all in there. So in the student version, they don't need the standards and they don't need the teaching tips. So you'll notice it just, after the vocabulary, it jumps right in and it looks identical. It's got the navy blue around it so that you see the difference. Oh yeah, the kids version is blue and the teacher's version is that cream color, but it's identical. And this would be the version that you would link into your your website or wherever your students go to get your content. And this immersive reader will read the lesson out loud. It'll also convert into, I think, up to 142 different languages. And if you have students with disabilities, they can adjust the rate of speed, the size of the font for visual disabilities. All the videos have closed captioning. So we're trying as hard as we can to embed as many strategies, like Roger mentioned, working at the School for the Blind, making those accessibility pieces built in. So that's kind of walking through how I've taken Roger's work and Molly's work and PJ and Jamie's work and embedded them alongside our map into what we think is a really fun lesson to study the presidents. And again, it's not a lesson, we don't think, that's going to get anyone in trouble, that's going to cause a red states, blue states, parents be on, guard thinking what you're teaching. It's just teaching the facts, as PJ said. This is election data. We need to be teaching kids how to understand data, looking for patterns, making predictions, and just learning in general how elections work without getting into personal opinions and that sort of thing, which I think that does need to become as they get older. They do need to learn to express those and have examples of civil discourse. And so we try and build, here are tools that students can use when they want to kind of stake a claim and back it up with evidence. So I'm going to share a couple other things really quickly. Another very frequent contributor to our learning resources and to Bunk is Retro Report. Many of you know Retro Report on PBS. They make short videos relating current events to the past. All of the Retro Report videos are also in Bunk. We formed a partnership with them several years ago when they noticed we had a few of their videos in Bunk, and they said, hey, more people are finding Retro Report in Bunk sometimes than on our own website. Dave Olson, for those of you that know Dave, he is their education coordinator, and he and I have done tons of webinars together. We team up all the time. We love working together, and they have a brand new short video out that is looking at the We the People competition. I have worked with my students. We're participating in that as both a classroom teacher, when I was at the district level as a K-12 social studies coordinator, and I continue to go back and help every year with our state finals. And so they came to our Virginia state finals along with 4 or 5 other states the past year and filmed a short documentary all about the We the People competition. It's called Citizen Nation. It's going to be premiering on October 8th, next Tuesday, but they have given us a little bit of a sneak peek. And so I'm hoping that I can get this to play. The other video played so nicely. Come on, be nice. Okay, I think it's going to work. This might be taking out to their website. Okay, that's a link out to their website. Let's try it again. There we go. All right. So this is just a short clip from the upcoming video that will be going live next week. Nope, still doesn't want to do it. All right. We might not have success here today, kids, but we're going to try one more time. Nope, I don't think so. All right, so you're going to have to look in the slides yourself. I do think they released it on YouTube. Apologies to our friends at Retro Report for not being able to share the clip tonight, but we have given you a link out to it. I do want you to know that you can get in touch with any of us if you want more information about Project POTUS or where you could access the posters and other resources for the periodic presidents. If you want more information about the maps or any other of the learning resources, about Bunk, about New American History, our contact information is here. I'm going to upload this video to YouTube this evening, and you can use it in your classroom. You can share it with your colleagues tomorrow. I'm going to come out of sharing mode so that we can all see if anybody has any questions. I noticed my friend Clinton has joined us, and Lisa, and Lillian's here in Dalton. So does anybody have questions for Molly or Roger or myself or PJ and Jamie about any of the resources that we looked at tonight? Or comments, thoughts on how you might use them?
Well, I definitely want to share out about all of the different competitions for our middle school teachers there in Florida for sure, and just encourage their students to participate. But yeah, no, I just want to say thank you again for sharing all this great resources, and I'm always happy to share out on our NCHE channels. Anytime you have things that you'd like to share out, just send them to us and we can be there to support you.
Yeah, and for those of you who don't know Dalton, he's with the National Council for History Ed, and he does a lot of work across the country. And myself and our whole team at New American History loves to collaborate with NCHE as well. Thank you, Dalton. Anyone else have questions or comments for any of our friends who are joining us tonight, or thoughts about how you would use some of these resources?
Hi, this is Lillian, and I just wanted to say I absolutely love periodic everything, the amendments, the whole 9 yards, and the book is totally awesome. I love to do scavenger hunts with everything that goes across the curriculum in Virginia, because when we 1, 2, and 3, the kids find so many great, interesting facts that they wouldn't find otherwise because it's all in one space. So I absolutely love them.
Thanks, Lillian.
Thank you, Lillian. Appreciate that.
Oh, hi, Kevin. Anyone else have a question or a comment for any of our panelists? All right. Well, I want to thank Roger, Molly, PJ, and Jamie, not only for being here tonight, because I know that this is a busy time of year for all of us as educators, but also for allowing us to use your work to create a learning resource that we can share across the country, get kids interested in learning, not just about the presidents, but also about how maps and infographics can really be a new way for students to find information or make learning fun. And then also the importance of those local history spaces. If you don't live near Indiana, if you're not from Indiana, maybe your family will go there on a vacation, maybe you won't, but we've got beautiful historical sites in our own backyards. This summer, I had the joy of being able to visit with Roger and Molly with a group of about 20 some teachers as part of a PBS grant that we've been supporting across the country the last couple of summers, where we're going into communities and we're having people explore those local historical sites in their own backyard, that you pass by them every day and you think, oh, I'll go there someday, but I'm going to go on vacation and see this historic site or this president's house, but you never tend to go to the ones right there that you can walk to practically. So we wanted to emphasize it's really important to take advantage of the historical sites in your own backyard. But as Roger pointed out, now that we have all this digital capability, we can all visit the Benjamin Harrison House. We can all visit other presidential homes and other historical sites. So thanks so much to our friends and our guests. Thanks to all of you teachers who joined us. I hope you found at least one new interesting thing that you want to play with or follow up on. If you're a middle school teacher, I encourage you to join the Project POTUS. If you're a middle or high school teacher, please look into the We the People competition. Everybody set your DVR next week to watch the premiere of the new Retro Report video that's coming out. And I'll upload this video to YouTube this evening after we log off. Thank you guys so much. I'm happy to zoom into your class and share any of these tools and resources as a follow-up. Just email me and have a good night, you guys. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.